how to write a good journal, mean that you can publish it out to the community. If you're interested, you can actually join us and we move on. Though we're having other members who are coming also on board, you're most welcome actually.
Are you part of us? Yeah. Come closer now.
Yeah, you can come and sit. So knowledge is never too toxic. So with this actually, we like keeping time so much. We don't want to waste people's time. The time was just strictly from 4 to 6, and we're already 5 minutes late. On top of our agenda, we have introduction, registration, and attendance. Then we shall be having, that is agenda number 1. Agenda number 2, we shall have presentation on how to write a good article, manuscript for journal publication. Then 3, we shall talk about the grant sensitization. Then 4, we shall have closing remarks from members. Then next semester, we shall maybe start on systematic review for journals and all that. So I think with this, we shall start with introduction. I don't know if I start from this side. You mention your name, what course you're doing, and
yes, good evening, members.
Good evening.
Yes, my name is fellow James Bruno. I'm doing Bachelor of Medicine and Surgery.
Protocol observed. My name is Joy, and I'm doing BMS 1.2.
My name is Enoch Tumsime, and I'm doing BMS 1.2.
And by the name is Moletoni, BMS 3.1.
Good evening, members. Robert Aivani. I'm doing BMS 3.2.
Good evening, members. All protocol observed. My name is Francis Ojeda. I'm in 3.1 BMS.
Yes, hello, good afternoon. My name is Lukman Ahmed Sheikh Noor. I'm doing 2 semesters, one in 1-2 and the other in 2-2. So, welcome to this session.
Only you.
Thank you.
So, good evening to everyone. My name is Hamanat Hairi, and I'm BMS 1.2.
Thank you.
Good evening, members. My name is Sheikh Abdallah. I'm in PCM 5.1.
Thank you, Abdallah. From here, I think.
Good evening, everyone. All protocol observed. Asawa Shabir is my name. I'm the manager, grants and partnership.
Thank you. We have big people who will give us how to write and maybe how we can actually get into her office and we can write actually, because there are several grants which are there. I think Prof will actually share with us on the different methods of how we can write for the grants and we can win. Thank you.
Good evening, Prof. And everyone. I'm happy to be here. Fashion Bio Victor is the name. And I'm from the chemistry department.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mbayo.
Permit me to stand on the already established protocol. Very good evening, everyone. My name is Ogwal Emmanuel. I serve under the Directorate of Research, Innovation, Consultancy and Extension as the Manager, Center of Excellence for Entrepreneurship entrepreneurship and innovation.
Good evening, everyone. Well, my name is Patrick Aja. I'm one of the facilitators in today's training, and by His grace, I'm the director of RISE, KIU Western Campus. RISE stands for Research, Innovation, Consultancy, and Extension. Well, without wasting time, I would like us to start immediately. In today's presentation, we are going to look at how to write a journal article. How many of you have come across a journal article before now? Have you seen a journal article before? Okay, only 2, 3, 4, 5. Good. You see, as a researcher, as a scholar, apart from the certificate you have, that I have first degree, second degree, third degree, you call yourself a doctor, then other thing that count for you is what is called creative output. Those creative outputs, journal article is one of them. Writing a textbook is also one of them. That you have a textbook for your name, a textbook you wrote, then the article you wrote. Then one thing special in article is that when you carry out a research, then the report of that research, to make it public for individuals to read, you put it in article form, from manuscript to journal article. Then that's why there are a lot of journal articles across the world. And these journal articles are indexed in different indexing bodies. Some have the OI number. That's the number, a kind of identifying number that is used to know the particular journal, the particular article in a journal. Those who have IS number that's peculiar to a particular journal. So when you carry out a research now that you've said, in KIU Western Campus, you carry out a research about, for example, the lipid profile. You have heard about what you call lipid profile, lipid level among the male students in KIU Western Campus. Then, you're able to profile their different level from different individuals. How do you make such result public? Is either you have a workshop where you will present such a result, or you present it in a conference attendance. Then, apart from presenting it in a conference attendance, you can equally subject it into a manuscript, which you send out to different journals, depending on journal of interest, that will now publish your work. So that anywhere you are in the whole world, you can just click Google, you see your work, that this work is written, is authored by Walker and Etor, or by Aja and Etor. You get the point? And in ranking of scientists and researchers or scientists or institutions are ranked based on the quality of their publication. Do you understand? That publications are where? In journal. Is that understood? Then let's look at sample. This is a sample how it looks like. This is a research that was published by this bulletin of National Research Center. And the title is Prospect into Therapeutic Potentials of Moringa oleifera Phytocompounds Against Cancer Upsurge, de novo synthesis of test compound, molecular docking, and ADMET studies. And if you watch, you'll see, this is the title, you can see the authors. Then you can see the abstracts. So this is a kind of typical example of how article looks like. A published article. This article has been published. If you are carrying a research that involves cancer or the application of phytocompound or phytochemical or bioactive compound in the management of cancer, you can see the information here can be useful to you. You understand? And that's why, have you ever heard about ResearchGate, Google Scholar profile, ResearchGate profile,
Yes.
Web of Science profile, Scopus profile? Those things are published work. If you have not published in a Scopus index journal, you will not have a profile because there will be no work that will be there. If you have not published in any journal that is indexed in Web of Science, probably you will not have Web of Science profile. If you have not published any work that is indexed in Google Scholar or can be found in Google, then you cannot have a Google Scholar profile. If all your publications are in hard copy and none is online, you could remember before the inception of digital life, scholars published hard copy. And that hard copies are kept in libraries and shelves. But now with digital life, ICT, all publications are there in online. And with ICT, the world has been reduced to a global village. Any work published in Oxford University, once it's published today, you can access it and see it today. The same thing, any work published here in Uganda, anywhere in the whole world, you can see it with the help of ICT. This is a typical example of a published journal article. Then today, I want you to tell me, Parker,
Yes.
we are not supposed to spend more than 40 minutes in this presentation.
Okay.
Because of other program.
Okay.
So we have journal, a channel for research communication. Because when you carry out a research, the easiest way to communicate your finding to the whole world is through what? Through journal article. Because if you attend conference, not everybody will be there in that conference. And at the end of the day, the people that organize the conference will do what? We publish what we call conference proceedings or conference articles. And the essence of that is to still make it to be open to the whole world, what we call open access. Then in general publication, we have open access, we have closed access. There are some publications that you can only see the abstracts, but you cannot see the full content. Those ones are closed access. They are for you to access them completely, you have to pay money, subscription. Do you understand? So the journal house, for you to access it, you have to subscribe. It could be an institutional subscription, it could be a personal subscription, you have to pay money. Then there are some journal that is open access. Once you published, anywhere you are, you can easily download it and see the whole information. And you see, research findings are published through what? Journal article. Another point there, preparing to write. Well, also want to look at how to write. How do we prepare to write a good article journal? Then another one, source to identify a topic. How do you identify a good topic, a researchable topic? Then the next one, doing the writing. How do you do the writing? Then types of journal article, have structure of journal article, have order of reading and writing an article, have how to write article or a manuscript. Then guideline for research writing, have ethics in writing, revising your work, and checklist for review of an article. So this was an outline that then journal a channel for research communication. You see, there are thousands or millions of journals floating in nets. And as time evolves, these journal articles are being improved. Just like I said earlier, that at the beginning, the most publications were in hard copies. When internet has not come, when information technology has not become order of the day, and that made it difficult for people to carry out a research. If you want to do a research, you must move from Ishaka to Makerere to look for their library. All the resource materials are in the library. You don't have access. You have to go there, register, get a card. The librarian will use a catalog to help you locate what you have. Sometimes all the journal, the information you need, you may not get all the journal. But with the help of ICT, this journal are at your doorstep. With even your iPhone or Android phone, you can browse and see them. Depend any information you are looking for. Remember, when you are carrying out a research, there always a research gap. How do you establish the research gap that you will research on to fill? Is by literature search. How do you get research search? It's from what people have published, what people have reported, their findings, and they have published in journal article, from a journal article. Then you now read them and now quote them according to social person, or social person have reported this or that. Is that understood? Then preparing to write. You know, if you don't have a communication skills, can you really communicate? So you must first of all remember that you are trying to impress your readers, the reviewers. You cannot just carry out a research and now publish in a journal article. There are processes, and that processes your article, after you have written a manuscript, at that point is called what? Manuscript. And that manuscript has to be what? Passed through peer review process. And that peer review process is always blind. What I mean by being blind, if I'm a potential reviewer, you will send a copy to me without the author's name, just title and abstract down with other information. Then you send to another person, you may send to 2 or 3 persons without, they just see the article without knowing the authors and their affiliation. Then they will have to read the work and understand from the title to the conclusion to references, to whether it flows, whether has it passed any information, has the information passed novel enough to be published. Not everything. You can't repeat what people has done. Your work must stand different. You get the point? So that is why you must do what? Write to impress. And you have to realize that journal editors and peer reviewers reading your work want to do well. You know, you are still growing. Sometime when you send your manuscript, you have what we call rejection. The reviewer may say, this person is writing as if he's from one typical village in Africa. You know, they just want to make you feel empty. They understand? Or say that this work is out of scope, or that the writer is not competent. You know, that's the kind of things. So that is why when you are preparing a manuscript, you have to think out of the box and prepare a manuscript that is convincing, that when the reviewer reads, they know that you have a point you are making, you are filling a gap in knowledge. They understand? And they make their corrections based on the way they understood your work. And for them to understand your work, that means you must communicate. And the reviewers also, most of the time, happens to be experts in that area you are writing. Because if you write any manuscript in mathematics, you can't give it to someone that studied English. You send to a mathematician. They understand, who has the scale, who can really evaluate. The essence of peer review is to make the work better. You get the point? Is after the comment of 2 or 3 or 4 peer review, if the researchers incorporate them, but not all the recommendation or correction made from reviewers are correct. That's what we call rebuttal. When you are making correction, you have the right to respond point by point. Yes, thank you, you have made this observation. However, this is what I meant. That this is what I did. I use the same method. If not, you understand, you are now insisting that the way you reported it is still the correct way. But you have to use very diplomatic, soft way. Because as well, if you try to belittle the reviewer, he may now recommend total rejection. Say, thank you for your observation, but however, it would have been better this way or the other way, you know, so that you have made your point and it sees that what you reported is correct. Then sometime when they make corrections, you may say, oh, this correction is very valuable. You accept it and effect it the way they want it, or the information you did not see when you are compiling the report. So these are the things that will make you to have a very good writing. Then another thing we do on this is selection. You select journal for publication, because you cannot just pick a manuscript and put in any journal. Just like Walker talk about KI, we have KI Journal of Health Sciences. But that means if you have any report, any manuscript that relates to health sciences, then you now look for that journal, you search for that journal using Google search, and know the scope of the journal. That this journal can accept a research work from social area or original manuscript. That's what we call review and original manuscript. You have short communication and all these things. So you check the scope of the journal and now select a stable journal for your manuscript. Then you use published items as model. For example, I showed you a sample of published article. So if you are preparing an article to publish and you have selected a particular journal, you now look at their journal, the guideline, the formats. They use it to know what and what, the kind of referencing pattern. Are they using Varkova? Are they using Mendeleev? Are they using APA or whatever? So you have to follow that format to prepare your listing. Then you read journal instruction to author. Then consult a style manual. For example, manual made by American Medical Association, American Psychological Association, Modern Language Association, University of Chicago. Some of these manuals are very helpful in manuscript preparation. Another one is sources to identify a topic. It could be from advisor. Advisor could be your supervisor. It could be your academic mentor. Do you understand? Then it could be from students, collaborators, even from brainstorming. Like this, as a group, researchers club, okay, how many of you have published an article? How many of you have published? You see, you have published. You have not published. See one thing I achieved. I am sure my undergraduate supervisees. I am sure that all the work they do are publishable. There is always a joy at this stage in your career that you Google your name and you see an article published in your name. You always feel joy. You get the point? Before now, people thought that the only people you can see in internet are the celebrities. But scholars are also celebrities. Because if you Google scholars' name, you now see his impact. You can Google my name, you will see my impact. There's one time, one of my nephews Googled my name. I said, Uncle, I don't know that you're a celebrity. I said, what do you mean that I'm a celebrity? I said, Uncle, see your name. I saw your name on the internet. I saw this, I saw this. I said, yes, now I'm a scholar. Those things you can see is my impact as a scholar. I'm an international scholar. I'm not a local scholar. You get the point? And the only way you can make because if you do a research and it end up in a library like my brother, nobody will know. And it will be there in the library, someone will do the same research you did and publish it. And if you want to publish that to your own you did before his or her, it becomes you have plagiarized. One plagiarism. Because when you publish it becomes your own. If another person is doing a similar work, the person will now cite you. That's how citation comes. You see someone have a 1,000 citation, 2,000 citation. It's not the person, it's people. Even in America, in United Kingdom, many part of European part of the world, once they read your work and consult your work in their work, and once it's published, ResearchGate will pick it, Google Scholar will pick it, Scopus will pick it, anywhere. So, have you seen the importance? And at this stage, you should be able to learn this skill. And unfortunately, most of the time, medical doctors face these challenges, medical students, because the kind of research they do as a medical student is somehow. Yes, I have a sister who is a medical doctor. I said, okay, she said, help me publish my work. I said, okay, write a manuscript, send to me, I will guide you. Do you know what she did? She now sent her whole report. I said, no. But you know that you are not taught how to prepare a manuscript. Because you cannot write a project report as an undergraduate without consulting article from journal. You write it from article journal. And the first step, I as a supervisor normally do, I'll ask you to go and print all the journals you consulted. Print them and bring to me. I'll see them and certify them. I'll give it back to you. Start writing. And by the time you consult 20 articles to write a report, you must have known the component of article. That article must have what? a title, and it must have what? There must be author, and that author must be affiliated to what? To an institution, to somewhere. And there must be what? An abstract. Abstract is the micro summary. In fact, you can read an abstract of an article and understand whatever that is in that very article. And after that, you have what we call keywords. That keyword is a searchable word, which are compounded from the article, from the title and the abstract. And once you put that keyword, you can get that article anywhere for searchability. Then, thereafter, there is an introduction. Introduction of an article talks about the background, the statement of problem. Which problem do you want to solve? Because each article, general article, must solve a problem to the society. And that is why people consult your work on daily basis to solve another problem. And one manuscript, article manuscript will end with creating another problem. There must be a gap. So in introduction, there must be a background of the study. There must be what? Statement of problem. And followed with what? The aim of the study. Very sharply. Then you now look at what? The methodology or materials and method. What materials? What method did you use? If you use animal, you report the number of animals, the design. If you use human, you report. And there you must seek for ethical approval. Very, very important. Your research must pass through institutional ethics committee to approve, to look at your protocol, to look at your proposal to see whether it conforms with ethical practice. You get the point? Then after the methodology, the next one is results. The results you got from the study using those standard methods. As a reviewer, if you are looking at, first of all, you look at the title. Oh, the title is okay. It's comprehensive enough. It has all the key words. The abstract has all the components. What are the components of abstract? A good abstract must have, one, the background of the study. Two, it must have what? The methods of the study. The third one is what? The results. And the fourth one is what? Conclusion. I've talked about the background, the methods, the results, and what? The conclusion. Don't you see? By looking at abstract, you can now infer what is the content. You get the point? Then, after result presentation, each journal article has a format. That is why you have to consult author's guide. Format of what? Result presentation. Some combine results and discussion together. Some will allow you to present the result, and in the next session, you will now discuss the result. What is result presentation? You present your result. But you cannot just present your result the way you got it from the field or the way you got it from the lab and all these things. That is where in your method, there is the last subheading in your method called the statistical analysis. That's why it's very, very important. Because I'm saying statistical analysis because I'm talking to scientists, a group of scientists. Do you understand? Because if it were maybe those in humanity writing a novel and all these things, they may not talk about statistics. So when you got your result, you subject your result to statistical analysis to enable you know the significant differences among the groups. You get the point? And that will also enable you to know how to present your result so that you can communicate. Are you following? And when you communicate, the next stage is to discuss your result. And you cannot discuss your result without reference to what? Literature. So you have to compare your present result to what others have reported. And maybe your present result may be what will complement what's already in the literature. Or there may be they may be the same or there may be differences. Differences may be in the method you use, maybe you modify the method I used, or maybe because of where you carry out the research, because environmental factor, climatic factor can be a factor of difference. Or if someone did a research in UK and he used a group of Caucasians, you understand, in his or her study, and you are doing a similar study here, you use the black. You know, Caucasians are different from us. So there must be a variation because you are not using the same exactly. But the result may be similar or close, but it may not be exactly. And that could be racial differences. You are using those from the Western world and you are using what now Africa. Do you understand? And see there will be gene differences. After all, from our melanin, who have melanin, those people that don't have melanin. You get the point? And there are genes that are responsible for the expression of melanin. That could be a factor. Even when you carry a study, sex differences can be a factor. Age differences can be a factor. You talk about carrying out a study on prostate. You see, and leave woman. Does a woman has a prostate? Potential doctors. Do they have a prostate? Are you sure? They have now. Do they have? Then, and when you are researching on prostate, you now use young men and elderly men. Don't you see that there may be a variation in the result? I'm talking about prostate. Prostate is age-related disease. You get the point? But if you see a toddler, a young boy, that let's say 6 months baby boy, if he's urinating, this thing can touch his urine can touch the ceiling. But try it now, even at your age. You cannot even go half. Much more somebody my age. Because as more you are aging, the more the prostate is enlarging. And it's a very serious problem to men. You get the point? So these are the things that may introduce variation in search. There are another way of sourcing for topic. You can brainstorm with colleagues. You understand? There's something very pressing here. You brainstorm and bring idea and say this idea. Okay, let's go and research for this idea. You can now start look for table of content and start, developing the research. Review papers. Listening to research talk like this can also be a motivation. Teach a course or give a talk, then understand the details and think hard to prepare for tough questions. Hot emerging field that could lead to many publication or easier funding. Remember, even in grant writing, if you apply for a fund, for any fund to sponsor your research, sometimes in fact, most of the time they evaluate your creative output. The only way they will know you have done much work there is from the work you have published. So, this guy has really researched extensively in this area. That means he has the knowledge and the skill. If you have not published anything related to what you are seeking for money, they will think that you don't have the science. Are you following the whole thing? Then another one is characteristics of a good topic. The topic must be what? Interesting. There is one thing I learned. I know American style and I know UK style. If I'm targeting any journal that's American based, I know how to bring out. In fact, I will bring out every activity in that manuscript will be in the title. The title will sound so scientific, then it will look very attractive. Whoever that sees it will like to read the content. Then there is where you may have a very good work, but you rubbish it with the title. So I don't think it's in this, but the content may be very superb. So always try to make the title very interesting, very captivating, so that it will attract the reader, and that will make, even if you are a Google scholar and ResearchGate, what is called ResearchGate? Any person that read your work, it will show. Anywhere he read your work, it will show that somebody in Philippines, somebody in Chicago University, somebody in Oxford University, anybody that downloaded your work, it will show. In a week, they will plot the graph and tell you your manuscript that is most read. You get the point? And they even tell you that your social manuscript is most read in your institution. That's to tell you how ICT has reduced the world into global village. Research is very interesting. If you're a scholar and you are not researching, that means you have lost. The difference between us in the university system and secondary school teacher is that we carry out research. Secondary school teacher teach and go, but we teach and also do research, and we are being promoted or ranked based on our research output. And if we do this research without reporting it ethically via standard writing skill, we will not be able to publish them, and nobody will know us. If you don't tell people, here I am, they will not know you are there. You get the point? So the next one is, the topic must be what? Very interesting. Enhancement of previous research. I talk about research gap. There must be a gap. That gap is established from a previous study. So there must be a gap, an improvement from what people have done in that area. You are now improving on this area. You get the point? Then areas of weakness in current research is also very important. Then current trends, there must be a current trends. Your research area must be a current trend so that you're captivating. What makes it current? What are those problems that are within you and that are common, that if you solve, it will capture the mind of everybody and even international community. So it must be a trending title or topic, not too broad or too narrow. It must be workable. It must be acceptable to editor. Because when you submit your manuscript, it will first of all go editor screening. Editor will screen to look at whether is there any information there. If there's any information, then it will now be subjected to peer review to make corrections to improve the work. You get the point? But the next one being the right thing. Now we are coming gradually, doing the right thing. Make an outline for your paper. You cannot write without having an outline. That outline will be able to know, okay, this is the title, this is what? The abstract, this is the introduction, this and this is what I'm going to write introduction. Like I've told you that introduction, there will be a background, there will be a statement of problem, there will be a justification and the aim of the study. You understand? Then in the second part, materials and method, this is what I'll write on materials. These are the steps and the materials I need for the study. These are the methods. These are the experimental design. So you have to have a kind of outline. That outline will now guide you. Thereafter, that will break down the writing process into various steps. Schedule specific time to write. You know, the most difficult thing is to write. You don't write when you are drunk. You don't write when your girlfriend visits you or your boyfriend visits you. Because at that point, have you heard about pheromone? There's a hormone called pheromone. Have you heard about pheromone?
Yes.
Have you heard about what does it? What is that? What's the common name? Pheromone. Pheromone Have you heard about it?
Yeah, it's attraction hormone.
Attraction hormone, or that was called love hormone. Do you understand? And sometimes some smaller animal, even something like a dog or ants, they all use it to trace their way. Do you understand? And this pheromone, when you are with the opposite sex, is being released, and that causes attraction. You get some like he goat and she goat, they use it to, So you write when you are mentally balanced. That's when you can write very well. Is that understood? Then make weekly and daily priority lists. Maybe in a week, you say Wednesday, you have timetable. I don't know how you could study here. When you did our undergraduate, even masters, we always have a chart of how we read different from the day-to-day lecture, this. We have our personal reading. Even at night, that's what we call TDB. What is the meaning of TDB? Full meaning. TDB. Till daybreak. So you don't read. You are a medical student. Till daybreak. Say, are you going for TDB? Say, yes, I'm going for TDB. Till daybreak. Till daybreak, you go with your book. You are learning principle of biochemistry. You go with your guiding. Do you understand? Physiology. You go there with your anatomy. Those big textbooks, they are like this, big volume. You now that night, he said, what you normally do, you may sleep very early at 6:30 and wake up at 10. You now bath and go to school. With our big book, you say that today I must finish beta oxidation and understand it. Today I must finish this and that. You get the point? That is our personal timetable. Or we decide that whatever we did in the class at night, I will make out time 4, 5, or 6 hours to digest them in a smaller note. This is making out time to write. You get the point? So to write a good manuscript, you must make out time, make it priority in every week, one day. 4 hours you dedicate it to write, and by the time not within a month or 2 months you must have come up with a very good manuscript. Start with whatever part you find easiest. Use word processing to write more efficiently. Word processing, you can Google, use all this Google. You can use Google, you can use web or all this search engine. Do you understand? You can use Mendeley and some of this software to help you. Even now we have AI, ChatGPT. You have to use them responsibly and ethically. What did I say? Responsibly and ethically. Because there is AI dictator. If you use AI to generate an article, it will be dictated. They will subject it the way we subject for plagiarism. So that's why you have to use them ethically and responsibly. Type of a journal article. Have here American Medical Association. Have this report of original data. If you go to a journal, you see, if you click, you have a review, you have original article, you have short communication. Do you understand? So a journal may be a report of original data, which is original article. It could be a review article. It could be a descriptive article. It could be a clinical practice guideline and consensus statement. It could be articles of opinion. Then it could be a book review, could be news articles, conference report. Like for journalists, can be a news article. They will press the news. It's also publishable. Then, according to American Psychological Association, have empirical studies. They call it empirical studies. They have literature review. A empirical study may be a similar name or synonyms to original article. They have a theoretical, have methodological article, have case studies, have brief reports, and a book and review. So it depends on this. These are the various articles you can think of. Then structure of a journal article. We use an acronyms to represent IMRAD format. I stand for introduction. M stand for methods. R stand for what? Results. And small a stand for and discussion. This is what makes an article. Introduction, what was the question? Because introduction must raise a question you're out to solve. That is where the research problem or the statement of problem comes in. Then, how did you solve this problem? That's where the method. Which method are you using to solve this problem? Method. The result, what did you find? And what does it mean? You are now discussing your results and relating it to literature. So these are the structure of journal. For those of you that have stumbled and made use of journal, these are the things you look for. Because sometimes the information you are looking for may be in the method. Because you are doing a similar work, trying to solve a similar problem, you now have to use the person's method. Sometimes that method, you may do some modification. That's why I say, so method modify. You may modify the method to suit, to adapt to what you are doing. But you follow the same procedure and made some modification. You get the point? Then, in what was the question? Maybe someone did a similar job and stopped somewhere. And that somewhere he stopped is where you are starting. Are you following? So, these are the things you have in mind when you are carrying out a research, and after that research, you are putting it into a report. It must have these components all intact. Structure of a journal article. Structure of a journal article. Then this is a complete format. We have title, like I've said earlier. We have authors. We have abstracts. We have keywords. We have introduction. We have literature review. We have methods. We have results, discussion. Then you have conclusion, because you must conclude from your results. They have references. They have acknowledgement. You have to acknowledge people that they contributed, but their contribution is not big enough to be part of author. You get the point? Then you have biographical sketch and appendices. So I will pause here for my colleague to take from here down. Thank you. Mr. Bayo, you can take over.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much, Prof. And as Prof was going on, we in our midst the director of Grand Western Campus. You are welcome, Prof. Thank you so much. Once again, Ile Mobayo Victor Fashogban is my name, and I want to appreciate Prof for the privilege he has given me to share one or two things with you regarding this topic. Maybe I start by saying that, okay, Prof asked a question and I want to ask it again. How many of you have read a journal article before? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. Undergraduate students are not exposed to journal articles. A case study of KIU students. Can that be an idea to write about? So I've just discovered there's a problem, isn't it? Okay, so how do I communicate the problem? What do I do with it? How do I find a solution to the problem and communicate the outcome of my findings? So I'm trying to look for the reasons why undergraduate students are not exposed to what? Journal articles. Okay, so I could now think of the first thing Prof have shown you is what was the question. So there's a question I've just raised, isn't it? Okay, how do you want to answer this question? Maybe I make a questionnaire and I select maybe at random 1,000 students in KIU. Of course, there are a lot of things about how to select, but then I sampled 1,000 students and I make them fill the questionnaire and I identify from their responses reasons why they are not exposed to job issues, isn't it? And so I have found out something, isn't it? I've got reasons why students in KIU are not exposed to journal articles. So what does these findings mean to the general public? What other findings are similar to it that have been identified in other places? And what is the way forward? How does it impact the community? How does it impact students? How does it make a difference to solve the problem that was identified? So I discuss all that, relate it with other findings previous to that, and then how does it make sense now? So writing is one thing, but I can finish all that rigorous exercise and then what I have written I keep in my room. Does it make sense? Does it change anything? Does it solve the problem? No. How will it solve the problem? I publish it. So anybody anywhere in any part of the world could now read, and then from what I have published, they can have their problem solved, isn't it? Okay, so that is why it is important to talk about the writing and then, of course, the publishing. In this case, we talk first about writing, and that is why we are here today. Prof, I've just shown you the complete format, and then some people use, of course, people use several other in reading and in writing journal articles. Maybe I ask you, paper, article, manuscript, journal, difference, yes? Who knows? What's the difference between paper, article, journal, and what? Manuscript? Any idea?
Those that read.
Uh-huh. Yes, thank you.
For me, I think journal is the biggest, and article would be a sub-part of the journal. Then paper becomes sub-part of that article.
Thank you so much. A contribution?
Is an extract from the report.
Which report?
Oh. A manuscript is an extract. After doing your report, after doing your research, you go and write a report. After writing that report, you bring it out. After bringing it out, you pick up a theme. Should we talk about one theme? You extract. You can pick up one objective out of your report that you generated, then you extract in a manuscript out of it. Whereas a report, in certain reports have 5 chapters, but in a manuscript, we shall be having now only four chapters that are communicating one message. Because in our reports, we might be communicating three messages because we shall be having 3 of them.
I think this man is almost a professor. You just wait, let me help you. Thank you. Just in 1 minute, eh? Okay.
I think the difference between a journal and an article is a journal is a collection of articles.
Thank you so much. Okay, so you have all done well. You have reasoned out well. Now it's simple. somebody mentioned reports. You have identified the problem, and the problem will always be there, isn't it? If there is no problem, there will not be research, because research is actually to find solution to problems. So you identify problems, you find solution to it, you have identified, you have got a report from it, you have what you have found out, and then you have been able to interpret, analyze, and explain what you found out in the context of what other people have done before now. So you have what we call a report that have been written down. Okay, he was talking about maybe you have done a research that have several objectives, and then you can extract a part of it as your report. But whichever way, either you have several of them or you have just written about one particular focus, you have a report. That report you have written, you put it in a format. This format, for example, Prof have shown you, this format bring out what we call a manuscript. Okay, the manuscript have not been reviewed, it has not been published, but then you have written it, or maybe you have submitted it to what? To a journal, to a publisher. So now this young man has also added to it that journal is combination of what? Of articles. Actually, what you have is a manuscript, and then when the manuscripts have been reviewed and have been published, then you say it's an article or a paper. It is published in a journal, isn't it? Okay, so there are a lot of journals, and then because you are writing an article to be published by a journal, that is why the title of this talk is how to write a journal article that will be published in a journal, isn't it? Okay, so the journals will have publishers that they work with. Either the journal house has a publishing house themselves, or they work with a publisher that publishes the work. Now, talking about these research articles, how do you read them? How do you write them? How do you bring them together? Somebody says, in my view, the best way to begin is to first write the methods. And then you write the results, you write the discussion and the introduction. Several people use several approaches, but then I also like this method. What do I do first? What have I done? Even if you need to work on it more, but at least you remember what you have done. You write down what you have done. What do I find out from what I did? That is the result. You write out what you found out. And then how do I understand what I've done in the context of what other people have done? Okay, you try to do that. Then it gives you a very good understanding of what you have done. You'll be able to now introduce it in a very logical way. Somebody else sees the introduction as the first thing to write. Yes, if you do that first, you may need to now go back and impact more on it based on what you have found out in what you have done. But whichever way, this is one of the convenient order of writing. Now, the full formats that you have been shown, let's just quickly run through them and see. The first thing to consider is that there's going to be a title to what you are writing, isn't it? Okay, there should be a title, and that the title is what everybody will always read. Like Prof have told you, if you have a very good content, but the title is bad, then it throws off people. Nobody wants to read, isn't it? So they will not know there's something good within the article if the title is not captivating. So the title should be such that it will attract readers. Okay. So in fact, majority of what is published online, you check, you find out that many people read title. Some other people, after reading title, they get interested, they go to read the abstract. Some stop at that point. Okay, some they stop at the point of reading the title because it doesn't interest them. Okay, when we review literature to see what other people have done, you want to see what are the other work that have been done about what I'm interested in. Prof have just told us about prostate, and then you want to see other work that have been done about prostate-related diseases, and you find several of them, and you say, oh, what did this person do? What did this person do? When you see some titles, you are not interested, you exclude them, isn't it? You rule them out. But some titles will make you to want to read, even though what they have inside may not be very good, but the title attracted you, isn't it? I was recently going through some articles online, and I found why PhD students delayed to finish their program early. It attracts, isn't it? Because I'm a PhD student and I want to finish early and I found something like that, it attracted my attention, and then I downloaded it very quickly. I opened, is there anything I need to learn more about this? Okay, so there are things that will interest you, and that is how the title is supposed to be. And it is important in literature searching, because if you must search for articles that have been written or published information about a focus, then you need to use specific contents of the article to search, isn't it? Okay, so the title is important, and if people will understand what you have done, they need to get it from the title that you have placed online, isn't it? Okay, and it should be as few as possible. You don't make it so filled up, and then you make it as summarized as possible, as concise as possible. At the same time, you let it cover the entire focus of the work. And then it should not include extra words, e.g. you had or, those kind of things. Studies on, you put a study on, okay? So those kind of things that may not, okay, so you write it as title, not as story, isn't it? Okay, you don't write it as if this is a story or this is a statement or a sentence. You make it a title to make people want to see what is in it. Okay, and then should not include abbreviation. Those abbreviations should be written in full. Of course, look at these examples. The title can be a nominal, a compound, a full sentence, or a question. You can have title like Relationship of Interns, Interns Working Hour to Medical Error. Okay, you can have titles like Treatment Effect of Dietary Fiber, and then other story. You can have it as a full sentence: full face helmet provide greater protection in motorcycle accidents than other helmet design. Okay, that is a full sentence, but then it's a title that can be used for a work. Okay, another way to put the title is to make it a question. Factors do undergraduate students delight in reading journal articles? You can make that the title of a work, and then it will be written and published. Okay, so you can structure your title in under those category, and then the people that, okay, now when you have the title, the next concern is now who are the authors of the work. Okay, that is how the flow is. So the authors of the work, the people that contribute substantially to the work, are the ones called author. What do we call substantial contribution? These are the criteria. Number one, they either contribute to the conceptualization of the work, to the design of the work, to the acquisition and the analysis of the data, and then to the interpretation of the data, or then to the writing of the work. So there must be substantial contribution for anybody to be termed author. Prof have told us the other time, some people will give some contribution to a work, but not substantial enough to be called author. What do we do to them? We appreciate them at the end of the work. Okay, but then if somebody have given substantial contribution, and then the person have been part of the drafting of the write-up, or the revising, the editing of the work, the person also must have approved the final version of the work to be sent out for publishing, because it is 5 of us have written a work, but then this one says, no, I don't agree with that. I'm not supposed to be part of it because of that disagreement, or we should do it like this. So it means there's a conflict already, isn't it? Okay, so the authors must all agree with it. Where they don't agree, then there must be a declaration of 1 or 2 places where there is what? Conflict and disagreement. Okay, and agreement to be accountable for an aspect of the work is also essential. Everybody that is part of the author must be able to say, I agree to be accountable for this part. I agree to be accountable for this part. So those are criteria that is important for authorship. Some key things to note: we need to often list from the greatest contribution to the list, irrespective of the academic status. Okay, so we give the first concern to the person that have contributed more, isn't it? Okay, then maybe if it's a supervision based work, Okay, maybe the supervisor have supervised students to do what? To do projects. In your case, maybe some of you will do undergraduate projects. So the common practice is that the person that have supervised the work will be made the last author and will also be the one to oversee the whole work that has been done. However, all other people will be given positions in the work as authors based on their level of what? Contribution. And then, of course, there will also be the need to, the different journal, we have different formats of writing the authors. Some will say you give the surname and initial. Some will say you give the full name, which starts from the first name, the middle name, and what? And the last name, which is your surname, isn't it? Okay, so those formats are often followed. That is why Prof was mentioning that there's what we call author's guideline. Okay, when we are to write, we need to find out where are we going to send this work to after writing. Okay, so there's a guideline those journals are prepared for you to write the work. By the way, we have, like Prof have told you, we have KIU Journal of Earth Sciences and Prof is the editor-in-chief. We have a guideline. If you want to publish a work with that journal, then there's a guideline. You must get this guideline and write your manuscript to follow that guideline. And when you have it, then it will be accepted and be taken out for review. Okay, so the focus today is still to write. Let's leave the one of review to another time. And then, of course, one of the members, one of the authors will be assigned corresponding author. In many cases, the last author or the supervising author. In some few cases, maybe other members of the authors list will be corresponding author that will be able to give information about the work, okay, such that when the work is published online, if you go online now and you find a work that interests you and you want to find out about the work, how do you get in touch with the authors? Simple. There's somebody that is corresponding author among the authors that have written that work, isn't it? So the corresponding author's details will be there, and then the contact, the email address in many cases will be there. So you'll be able to pick it, and then the person should be able to answer questions regarding that paper, or if necessary, direct you to one of the members, one of the authors that will be able to give the best answer regarding that paper too. Because the reason for publishing is to communicate what you have found out, isn't it? So you should be ready to receive feedback from the general public, and then you should be ready to give answers regarding what have been written and published. So we have first the title, we have the authors, and then there's need for what? Abstract. What is abstract? Abstract is a type of summary, okay, but it's a technical summary. Okay, it's a type of summary that gives an overview of the work. Okay, so it's briefly give an idea of what was identified and why as a problem, why the problem was identified and how, and then what has been done to be able to solve the problem, how the problem have been solved, and then what have been identified or found out from the effort in the research, and then how does it relate to general understanding of people and previous work that have been done and what has been done. So you see, Prof gave the IMRAD the other time as the general overview of the format of writing. All that is put there, that introduction, methodology, result, and discussion, they are also supposed to be put together like that in the abstract, but then in the summarized form. Okay, so that is why abstract is a form of summary. It's a summary of all the aspects of the work in the technical way. Okay, and there's always limit to it. That is why we say it's an executive summary. Okay, in some cases you find some journals we say they want between 150 and 200. Some we say maybe 250. We say abstract could be structured or unstructured. If it's not structured, you find everything about it. I've told you the IMRAD, they are represented in the abstract, but then the whole thing will be written together as a prose. Okay, that one is not structured. But if it to be structured, then the journal can give you specific subtopics you must put as a structure. Maybe the background of what you have done in one sentence, maybe the objective, then maybe the method, maybe then the results, what have you found out, and then the discussion or the recommendation. So you can just pick one sentence, or in some of them maybe two, to just summarize everything. So that executive summary of each part is what we call abstract. Okay, so it could be in subtopics and it could be unstructured. And like I told you, it's always having word limit, which is a function of what the journal wants. Now, there's what we call keyword after abstract, and the keyword is, if we want to look for your work, what are the striking words that we can use to identify your word? Sometimes it could be individual words, it could be phrases that are grouped together that can make us find this work easily online. In those days when we use the local, the traditional library, we always have catalog that say, okay, the books that have prostate. Then you look for prostate, you go to P, and then you look for all the books that have P, you go to P, R, O, and then you find the books that are on prostate, isn't it? In this case now, you go online, you look for prostate, if you have written an article, and then the article, you pick prostate as one of your keywords that define what you have done, what you have identified, what you have found out in your research. If prostate is there as one of the major key things to identify what you have done, then when we search for prostate, we should be able to find your work among the several thousands of millions of work that will come. How? Because you have developed, or you have identified prostate as a keyword in your research. Do you understand? Okay, so when we do research, in some journals can give you between 3 and 10 generally. Some will specifically mention how many, and some will not mention how many keywords you must put. But then your keyword must be selected from your title and abstract. They should be able to give a definition of what you have done. Okay? Are undergraduate students exposed to journal articles? What are the keywords we can find there? Yes? Keywords? You don't know. You don't understand. If we need to look for that article, let's assume it has been published online. If you need to look for it, and you don't know the title, you want to find out, okay, you want to work on this topic, you want to find out, are there similar work that have been done online? What do? You use those keywords to look for similar articles online. So how do you find them? What do you suggest as keywords? Undergraduates, thank you. Yes? Journal, okay. Yes. Now, what we do is to bind them together, isn't it? Okay, so when you say undergraduate and you say and journal, it means any article published online that have undergraduates and that have journal will be the ones that will be popped up for you, isn't it? But if you say undergraduate alone and you type on Google Scholar or you put on Google, how many papers do you find? Even those ones that are not relevant to what you are doing, am I correct? Because it will look for what? All the papers that have undergraduate in the topic or in the abstract or whichever other part of the work. But you want to be specific, that have undergraduate, that also have journal, that also have what? Maybe you are considering Uganda, that also have Uganda. So when you put the three together, it's going to look for papers online that have those three keywords in them. So you will be streamlined. Am I correct? Okay, so now the introduction of the work is also very important. When you have got now the keywords, now you want to you have now the introduction of the manuscript that you are writing. So the introduction will contain the background. You want to give a background to the work, and then that is what will make the readers to be able to understand what you have done, because they need to have a background. You have written about a method or a new therapeutic compound that you have identified to be able to treat what? Prostate enlargement. So for people to understand what you have done, they need to understand what is prostate enlargement. What even is a prostate? Okay, so you need to give a background to what you have done. That is what the introduction supplies. And then you also identify the challenge as part of the introduction. What is the challenge? What are the questions? If there's, I told you the other time, if there is no problem, then there's no need for research. Because research is to do what? To solve problem. Huh? And when we solve problem, we create another problem by it, so that other people will find something to solve again, isn't it? If all the problems are solved, then there will not be need for research. Okay, so you also identify the problems which you bring up as questions you want to answer, isn't it? And then what are the contents of the introduction? Of course, they are going to introduce every part of the topic. Okay, if you have a topic or a title, maybe I need to quickly tell you that there's difference between topic and title when we talk about research or manuscript. The title is just the single one, the sentence or the question or the nominal, what I've shown you earlier. That's the title, isn't it? When we call it a topic, it now means title plus what? Plus abstract plus keyword. Okay, those keywords I've just told you about. So when you bind the three together, you have it as topic. However, title alone is a part of the topic. So when you have a title or you have got a topic, you want to now introduce the topic, then you do it by first, that is the introduction. You first talk about every part of what you are writing, okay? You are talking about undergraduate students. You are talking about what? Journal articles. To do your introduction, you need to explain, or you need to give a background to what journal articles are, isn't it? Okay, you need to give an understanding to the readers to what undergraduates are. Okay, so those keywords in your title, in your topic, you must talk about them in introducing. You introduce every bit of them, and then you highlight the relevance of what you are doing, okay, to previous works that have been done, isn't it? That is what justifies that this work is necessary. Otherwise, if there's if it's not necessary to do it, why doing it? Okay, but you need to justify that. Yes, there's a problem. Yes, other people have done several other things, but then with what they have done, there's still this problem, this problem, this problem, and if this other thing is done, it's going to complement what other people have done, or it's going to solve the problem in this or that dimension. Okay, so and then when you develop all that, then you talk about the challenges with what is available online or in every part of the world, and why this work you are doing is going to add up to the body of knowledge and understanding about that topic, about that title. When you do that, then you are convincing the readers that what you have done is justified, is important to be done. It's not a waste of time and effort and money. Okay? And then when you do that, you end the introductory part by giving a focus to your work. Okay, so because of this problem, because of what other people have done, and why there is need for a complement to what they have done, that is why I am trying to do this. Okay, so you end your introduction by stating what you are doing, which is your purpose, your aim, and that should be tied to what the problem is, why it is important to solve the problem, what other works have been done, or what other research have been done. When you bring all together, then you bring out why you want to do what you have said you want to do. So it's always this way. There's a topic of the paper, there's the literature review about it, and then you want to now justify what you are doing and why you are doing it. Okay, so the first, you need to have, okay, you need to have your work in paragraphs, and then they follow. So they follow this this prison that is upside down, isn't it? You start in a big way. You are talking about prostrate, and then you introduce prostrate enlargement, you introduce prostrate and the challenge of prostrate all over the world, and then you say prostrate is also a challenge in Uganda. Maybe you first talk about Africa, and then in East Africa is a challenge, in Uganda is a challenge. You see now you are narrowing, isn't it? So you start with the two big angles of the upside down prism, and then you are coming down, you are narrowing your thoughts in your introduction, and eventually you pin it at what? A particular problem of prostate in Uganda. There has now been reports that 50,000 people every day die of prostate enlargement in Uganda. But you started by talking about prostate in general, talking about prostate in the whole world and the general challenge of prostate all over the world, but then you narrow down to East Africa, to Uganda, and then you pin down a problem, and then you justify why the problem needs to be solved. Okay, so that is the method of writing. We call it funnel shape. You know funnel, isn't it? So it's like a funnel. You start in a big way and you narrow down until you get to what? To your specific focus. Okay? Now, usually literature review in journal articles are always part of the introduction. You understand? That is why if you look at this, you see that second square is what? Is it a square or rectangle? It's literature review. So after introducing, giving a background to your title, then you need to talk about previous work that have been done about it, isn't it? So that is your literature review. So you bring it into the introduction. So it's often part of the introduction, and then it's not always very comprehensive, just on few papers that relate to what you are doing, isn't it? Okay, when we write this part, that is why, I mentioned that when we want to write at times, it is good to first consider what are the results I've got, and then how do I discuss the result, because literature review and discussion, they go together. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. These 4 works have been published earlier. The authors have argued this, but they have done it in several other parts of the world. We want to see if what has been done in several other parts of the world also apply here in Uganda. So you want to be number 5 to do what 4 other people have done, isn't it? But you are changing your location, just like Prof talk about geographical variation in research, isn't it? So you want to do what other people have done in other parts of the world. So you have identified those 4 papers as what have been done. So when you have your results, you now check which results, how do you discuss your results in relation to what other people have done. So that's the things, the articles you identified and you talk about in your review of literature, they are the ones now that will also guide you to discuss. That is why when we write literature review, those articles we use that we reviewed, we say these are similar work to my own. Those works you review, you will also now discuss how do they relate to your own. You mentioned in your literature review that these works have been done in some other parts of the world, and these are the results they found. Now when you come to discussion, you now say, this is what I found out, which relates or which is similar to what this other person found out in Kenya, and the relationship is because of this. However, it is different from what somebody else reported from Nigeria. It is because of the climate. It may be, maybe you will not be able to say emphatically, it may be because of the change of the weather, or because of this or that, and then you now profile solution. So in that wise, you have brought your literature review and your discussion together to let the whole world see that what you do is within what is just adding to the body of knowledge. Okay, adding to what has been done already by other scholars. I think our time is fast going, and I'm going to be a bit faster. Now, method. You have got what? Introduction. You started with the title, and then you got what? The authors, then you got what? The abstract, then the keywords, then the introduction. Now you need to now write the methods. Okay, what do we call method? There's method, there's methodology, isn't it? Okay, methodology is how you did what you did, isn't it? The method is what do you follow to do what you do. Okay, so the method is a broader one. You have the steps you follow, the guide you follow, and then how you followed it, isn't it? So what is the purpose of this? It is to allow reproducibility, okay? What makes your research or any research reliable is what? The point of reproducibility. That what I did, somebody else can try it and get the result I got, then we can say it's reliable, isn't it? But if you did it and you got a particular findings or answers, and then somebody else tried to do it somewhere else in US or UK or wherever, and they failed to get what you got, not because of climatic or weather for condition, but because of inherent technical disparity, then it means the work is not reproducible, isn't it? So when we do research, the purpose why we include the methods we have followed to achieve what we achieve is for reproducibility, so that other people can reproduce. Of course, it will be also necessary for other people to be able to test, for other people to be able to validate, and then for further research in the future. Okay, to allow others to also be able to evaluate what you have done, so that somebody somewhere will not say, no, we don't believe in that. We don't believe that findings. We don't believe somebody have just done a research and then they have found out that that story of undergraduate students are not exposed to journal articles is not true in KIU. In KIU, they are exposed to it. We found out that 80% of KIU students that are undergraduate are exposed to journal articles. If you find out that, and it's different from what other people have found out in other places, and then you needed to justify it, they can come and test it or evaluate it or validate it. How will they do? You need to supply them the method you used, okay? You need to supply them how do you get your data, and how do you analyze it, and how do you conclude on what you present to us, isn't it? So it is for reproducibility, but more than that, it is also for validation. We want to validate. Now, when they go through the method you say you have used, they identify an error there. They say, that is why your result is fake, is false, is not what? Reliable, because your method was not reliable. You want to find out why KIU students are, or why, if KIU students are exposed to journal articles, and then you went to what? BMS 1.2, or particularly you went to, you visited the members of the Writers and Researchers Club, and those are the people that filled your questionnaire. Will your results be reliable? No. Why? Because these people that you met, they are exposed to what you are saying. Okay, so they will be, you expect that they will be what? They will have positive responses. But why not go to, if you take the same method and you take it to people that are not in this team, what are you going to find? Maybe instead of 80%, you are going to find 2%, isn't it? Okay, so it means when somebody else pick the methods you have written, they check it, they say, no, because this method is wrong, the findings of this research will be what? Will be wrong. So it's a validation tool, okay? So it is important we put methods to validate what we have done. What are the contents of the method? You describe the context and the settings of the study, okay? If, for example, you have to now discuss that this research was done among the writers and researchers team, then you are giving power to your method, isn't it? If somebody else wants to reproduce the work or validate the work, they don't go and do it among people that are not in that team, isn't it? Because they will not have the same results. But that part of it, that part of the content, give power to your result, okay? So you don't just pick what somebody else has done from anywhere in any way without looking at the context and the setting why it is done. That is why we are talking about geographical. When you want to compare the findings of several research, you also think about the geographical impact. Prof was talking about we black people and the white people, and you want to look at research that have been done in two places like that. Then, and the research is something that have to do with maybe our melanin pigmentation or maybe our skin color, and then you don't put into consideration that we are different in that regard, isn't it? Okay, so you will not be able to have something that is reproduced. So that context where the work is done is supposed to be put in the methodology so that it will make the validation feasible and possible. And then the population that was involved in the research need to be mentioned. Just like I've mentioned, this is a population of writers and researchers, and then if you have surveyed them for a particular research, you don't go and reproduce the work by surveying people that are now exposed to this kind of things, okay? But if you say there is this particular team in KIU Western Campus and the same team in KIU main campus, and they have the same kind of exposure, then you can say you want to survey this team and also that team at the main campus and compare their level of exposure. In that wise, you are talking around the same context. Am I correct? Okay, you need to also describe the sampling techniques. How do you choose? If you have 2,000 people in the university and you needed to survey 20, what method do you use? So you need to describe it in the methodology. And then how do you collect the data? Do you use questionnaire or focus group? You just gather them together and you hear from them and you write down and interpret. Whatever method you have used, you need to list it in the methodology, in the method section. And then, of course, how do you analyze the data you gathered? So those are the contents of this part. And then you also need to talk about the amount of details that was used, okay? You talk about if it's a well-known method, then you can just say, give a citation to that method, isn't it? But if it's something that is not well-known but has been reported, you say, okay, I used the method that was reported by what? By work I taught in 2024, and this and this and this and this are what was done, isn't it? But if it's a method that is generally known, very popular, you can just go on by saying the method of so and so without describing. In that wise, it will be generally understood. However, journals actually, they are discretion to give specific directions of what you must include in what you write as method. If you have identified a new method and you are the first person to report it, then you need to make it more explicit for somebody else to be able to reproduce, isn't it? The reason for method, reproducibility, validity, isn't it? So if it's something new coming from you, then you must be very detailed and explicit. If it's something that has been reported by somebody else, then you just give some little connection with the previous work. If anyone wants the detail, then they can go to the previous work and go and find it there, because you are not the one that is beginning it. Okay? Now, what guideline do you follow to write the method? They should be written in past tense. And then some journals will say you put it in subtopics or subheads. You don't say, okay, I think I have some examples here. Oh, no. Okay, so writing it in past tense, A, B, C, and D was done. Isn't it? Okay, somebody, when maybe you are writing a proposal of what you will do, you say, I will use a questionnaire to gather information from the writers club, isn't it? But now you have done the work, you want to now publish it, isn't it? So you will now say it in past tense, because it is what has already been done. Does it make sense? Okay, so that is one key thing. That is how we transform proposal to what? To manuscript, by changing the tenses to show that it's something that has been done. So after you have the method, then you go to write what? The results. Okay, so those are the flow, okay, of the format like we have been picking. The result is the core part of the paper, and it will report the data that was collected, the recruitments that was done, the participants that took part in the work. If we have talked about Writers Club and we have surveyed them for a particular research, then we need to give the demography and then the conditions of the participants, so that people will understand, okay, it is this kind of people that gave this kind of responses. If we need to get the response from other people that are different in demography or from these other ones, then we need to know that there may be variation in the result we'll find. Okay, so those are important parts. And then, of course, the results are always put in form of tables and figures. So you present them in form of tables, or you present them in figures, depending on the nature of the result you found. And then the results also should be written. So several journals, like Prof told us earlier, have formats. Some we say you can write the results and discussion together. Okay, so you present a result and you discuss it. And then others we say no, you write you put all your results together and then you have another session for discussion. You also write the result in past tense. It is not what you are going to do, it is what you have done, isn't it? So you also write out what you found out. A total of what? 417 samples was analyzed. That's the past tense. It has been done already, isn't it? Okay, so you write in past tense. Of course, I have mentioned that you present in tables and figures. Some journals will say you can put your tables and figures within the write-up, within the manuscript. Others will say no, write all and then put your tables and figures at the back after your references as appendix. Okay, but in the middle of the work you mention table 1 should be here, but then you don't put the table 1, you put all the tables, you put all the figures at the back. So those are at the discretion of the journals. That is why we always talk about the guidelines to authors. If you need to author with a journal, you need to know their guidelines and follow their guidelines. Some common mistakes: illogical sequence of data presentation. The presentation should be logical, isn't it? So you start, you don't pick the one that should come last, you don't make it first. Okay, the data or the result that should come first should not go to the middle. Okay, so they should follow this logical sequence of how they connect to each other, and there should be connection between each part. Of course, there should be accuracy. You don't just assume, you don't put assumed figures, you don't just you don't report what you expect, you report what you found out in your research. Okay, I expected it should be like this. Was that what you got? You report exactly what you got. Somebody say, I expected that male and female should not be the same number. We should have more female in KIU than male. But then, because we have the opposite, you now try to reverse. You give the percentage of male to female and you give the one of female to male. Then you have altered the integrity of the research, isn't it? Okay, so you must report accurately what you got, and then you also avoid repetition of presentation. You don't present the same data in table, you also present it in figure. Okay, so you choose which is the best way to present it, and then you do that. You don't misplace the information. There are some things people put within results that are actually how the work was done. You take all the how to method and you bring all the what, which was what you found out, you bring all of them what to the result. And some people try to conclude from the result. No, the result is just a presentation of what was identified. Then the conclusion will come later after you have discussed it with reference to other works that have been done previously. So discussion, it's one of the most difficult parts of the work, because you need to now summarize what you have got in the context of what has been known before. Okay, so you place your work in the context of all the previous works. So what do you do in this case? You interpret the results, you analyze it, and then you now connect it to existing literature. Just like the result we were talking, the one we were talking about, students not having exposure to what? To journal articles. So you try to say, in Makerere, it was published 2 years ago that their students are much exposed to what? To journal articles. And then we have also found out in our study that in KIU, the exposure is also there. It may be because the National Council of Science and Technology make it mandatory for lecturers to teach while exposing students to to journal articles. Okay, so you have placed your work in context with the National Council, in context with what? With what Makerere do. You now say, which is different from what was reported in Kenya, that undergraduate students should not be exposed to journal articles because they may be very confusing to them. Okay, and the authors of that one in Kenya may have said that because they don't have a regulatory body that emphasizes, and then they also have previous work that have reported that those other exposing students to journal articles may have some other negative implications on their understanding. So you just try to bring your work in the face of all the other things that have been known, so that it will be in context. Okay. And what are the possible content of the discussion? You emphasize the strength of your study, and then you emphasize also the limitation of your work, and then you relate your work with other previous research that have been done, and you now apply, you give application and implication of your study. What is the application? How can it be used? Okay, the reason you did the work is to solve problem, isn't it? So what policy can be formed from it? So maybe now is now going to be that these findings show that what it is good to incorporate or to incorporate exposure to journal articles in teaching, especially at university level, even to undergraduate students, and having it as one of the guide from the National Council is very important and imperative. And if it is done in other countries also, it will raise up researchers among undergraduate students. So by that, you are giving out possible policies that may emanate what from your research. Okay, so those are some of the things that should be, of course, other research necessary. That is where we talk about recommendation. You now you state the limitation of your work, and then how will the limitation be answered? That is by giving what suggestions of what you could recommend. Okay, however, the work was limited to only biomedical students. It will be good to evaluate the same the same research among among Uganda undergraduate students in other faculty, to be able to ascertain that the same result holds in other faculty. So by that, you have given a limitation to your work. You have also given a recommendation to what limitation you have provided earlier, and how that limitation can be overcome. Okay, we have some errors or some mistakes that are commonly made. Maybe I'm going to jump them because of time, so that we can go on with what other parts we have. So after writing the discussion, so in some journals you find the discussion will be detached from the conclusion and recommendation. So whereas in some, the discussion can be ended with maybe a last paragraph that is the conclusion and recommendation. But either they are attached or they are detached, there should be a conclusion and there should be recommendation, isn't it? And then before you give recommendation, if there's limitation, you mention it, and then you recommend to solve the limitation. And then, of course, you now have the references. Okay, so you have cited several other work in the course of the writing. Then you need to give the references. You need to write them down in full to be able to make other people to find them easily online, isn't it? Okay, so people may want to validate what you mentioned, and you cited it was done by Walker et al. Then they come to the reference section and they find out what did Walker et al. Actually report. So they find what Walker et al. Reports by seeing the title of what Walker et al. Have done, the journal that it was published in, the year it was published, the issue, and then the volume of the journal. So when that is listed at the back, then it could be used to trace the previous work that you are referring to. Okay, so and you do it to give credit to the persons that have given the statements you have cited, to show that they are not from you, they are from other previous works. So you do it to give credit, and then it will also make your work credible, and then it will help to showcase how your work is related to what has been done previously. Of course, it will also help your readers, like I mentioned, to be able to trace back what has been done, to find more information that you have pointed them to by citing other people. Okay, the format is actually a function of the journal. There are several styles of references. The common one for us for writing, in maybe you are doing assignments or you are writing project here in KIU, we use APA, American Psychology Association, that is APA, and there are several additions to it. The current one is 7th, but I'm aware KIU will still use the 6th edition. So, but apart from that, there are several other ones, okay? So, but we have just put some few examples here. Because of time, we will not be able to go through them. To do referencing, maybe you have heard about reference managers. There's EndNote, there's Zotero, there's what? Mendeley, that one may be more common to you. And we use them to, okay, when you write what you are writing, and you do your citation, what do we call citation? The in-text citation. As you are writing, you give a statement, and you say, you put in brackets Walker et al. 2024, meaning that you are giving credit to Walker et al. As the source of that information, not directly the same sentence he has written, because we talk about plagiarism, isn't it? But the idea, the thought was from him. You have paraphrased it in your own words, but the idea was what? Was from him. So what you have done is an in-text citation. Now, at the back of the work under the reference section, you list the full detail of what he published and where he published it, isn't it? Okay, so if you did your in-text citation with reference manager, like this one of Mendeley, Zotero, then when it is time to list all the references, the reference manager will be able to now help you to collate them automatically, instead of you going to start listing and detailing all the references one by one. Okay, so that is what reference manager does. Maybe one of these days we'll have a chance to now practically learn about referencing and practically learn the skills and learn how to do it. But then you can just find some few examples even online. Okay, maybe I give you a short assignment. You can go online and go on Google Scholar, type the title of any work, maybe any work you know, or just put some keywords that can guide you to some published article on Google Scholar, not Google. When you do that, you see results that will be shown. And if you observe each of the articles that will be identified, there's a place they will write cite, and you see 2 inverted comma there. When you click that place, it will bring out references, okay, in different formats. Okay, you see American Society, America what? Psychology Association. And then you see other ones, you see Vancouver, you see them. So the way they should be cited in each of those styles, they'll be listed there, okay? So you can go through them, and then when we have time to talk about reference manager software, we will be able to do that later. Then, of course, we have talked about acknowledgments, people that contributed to the success of the work, but they don't merit the criteria we mentioned earlier for authorship. They can be acknowledged. Institutions or grantors can also be acknowledged. So we have mentioned there's guidelines, and you also need to know and download the guidelines for each journal and follow the guideline to write in whatever writing. Of course, there are ethics in writing. We have talked about not fabricating what you are writing. They should be authentic, not fabricated. They should be accurate. You give credit to the original owners. You don't plagiarize. And then if you need to use animal or human, you treat them with specific guidelines. That is why we submit those kind of research to Research Ethics Committee, which KIU have one, and then they try to guide that you do the work in ethical manner. Okay, so of course after writing, the work needs to be revised. There should be parts of the authors that will go through it. Sometimes you send it out to people that are natives, if you are writing in English and you are not English natives, and then they do grammatical check. Sometimes we do it with English editing softwares, and then we also do the technical revising to make sure what we are written has a flow, communicate a message, and there's no ambiguity in the understanding of what has been written. Of course, the journal you are sending it out, we also want to checkmate all that before they accept it for publication. So we have put several other things that will be helpful to you as guide. If Prof make this available to you, you have access to it. Otherwise, all the other part of it, we'll be learning them in bits as we go on with this club. Thank you so much for listening. And thanks once again to Prof for allowing me to talk about this other part of the work. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, thank you, our presenter. I think what we have on this list of ours is concise translation. Then we first give a hand of applause to our. So we shall be having grand sensitization as our next thing on board.
If you have questions, you can do questions briefly as well.
You have a question? Okay.
Thank you very much, our presenters. My question is on, I have 3 questions. The first one is on the qualifications for publication. Let's say you send your publication or your manuscript to peer-reviewed fellows. Would they kind of limit you due to the fact maybe you're an undergraduate student and you may not be an expert yet in the field of research or trying to research? Then the other question is how many journals can you publish in the same kind of work? Is it limited that when I publish in ResearchGate, they may not allow me to publish in Google Scholar? I'm asking that question because some journals are paid to access them. So do they limit or do they have like ownership of that work you've published to them so that you cannot publish maybe to other free journals for people to access? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yes, I think Prof can answer
I
that.
did not get the first one because I was not listening.
Oh, let me repeat.
What was the first one?
The first one was about the qualification bias. Maybe when you publish, maybe I publish my work as an undergraduate. Oh, okay, I send my work as an undergraduate to peer review fellows, and then maybe they may look at it as a person who may not be having expertise in the field I'm publishing about. And then,
okay, thank you. Well, I'll start with the second one. Then before I will come to the first one, which you repeated. You see, ResearchGate or Google Scholar, they are not journal. You get the point? Journal, for example, is like KIU Journal of Health Science. It's a journal. And once you publish your work in any journal, it's highly unethical to publish the same journal in another, to publish the same article in another journal. Even when you are submitting, they will ask you whether you have submitted this manuscript to any other journal. If you say yes, it's automatic rejection. Thereafter, you are submitted as original journal, original manuscript to that journal. And once it's published, why send it to another journal? You understand? Because if you send it there, it becomes plagiarism. You are plagiarizing yourself. Then Google Scholar, ResearchGate, Scopus, Profile, these are a kind of housing databases where if you publish, if it is open access, on its own, you are not even the one that will put it. But once you have a profile there in that database and you publish a work today, it will pop up there. It will pick it because your name is already in that database. It will recognize that this work is published by you. It will be there. You get the point? For those that are closed access, what will be captured there may be the title and abstract. The understand may be there. That's where you see some people that read that the title and abstract may inbox you. They may write to us and ask you that they need the full text. Because the license that we are giving to you as a closed asset does not allow you to upload the full, the complete text there. Or if you are uploading, it will be secret that nobody can even access it, because those journals, if you do that, they can sue you because it's not open access journal. The number two, that you are undergraduate. A research is a research. If the research you did has information, there's a novelty there, there's something you are communicating to the whole world, there's a gap in knowledge you are bridging. Do you understand? Even when you are submitting, nobody knows whether you're undergraduate or you are postgraduate or you are professor. What is there is your name, not even your title. You get the point? I have published severally with an undergraduate student, and the work we publish is not even is in a high index journal. Do you understand? And the thing has really enhanced some of them to get a foreign scholarship, because after your undergraduate and you are pursuing for masters and PhD scholarship and admission, sometimes your potential supervisor there will ask you whether have you published. If you have published, it will score. It can give you up to 3 points. And the kind of journal you have published is also another thing. So it's always good you publish with your supervisor. That you, as an undergraduate, once indeed your research project you are not the only owner. You only jointly with your supervisor. And you cannot publish without your supervisor. Do you understand? But you, as the student, may be the first author, the supervisor usually the last author. You get the point? Because the thing is jointly owned by both of you. Is that clear? Thank you.
I think we first have bring
Yes.
on board, then we summarize with the most questions. Thank you.
So good evening, everybody. I think most of you are exhausted by journal publication, isn't it? Yes, but they have given a very broad things about the journal publication. I think with this, you can go with the publication directly. So just I'm going to take a very small time, very short time, to give what is going on in the grants data partnership. Okay, so a hearty welcome to all of you from the Directorate of Grants and Partnership. I am Dr. Shanti, Deputy Director of Grants and Partnership. So now I'm going to introduce about the grants, fellowships, scholarships, where the students you can enter and achieve more. Okay. So this Directorate of Grants and Partnership, it was started in November 2022. The main function of this grants and partnership is, searching the grants available all over the world. Since Uganda is coming at a low and middle income country, almost all the grantors from all over the world, they are ready to give the money for us. Okay. So what is our function is, are you able to follow me, or I am very fast? It's okay. Okay. So okay. So actually, all the grantors, they are ready to give the money and they are sending some grant calls. Okay. So our KU has registered with so many platforms by paying the money, and for example, Funds Beeline, Funds for NGO, then Development Aid. Likewise, these are all the platforms who